Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something wild. We're going to explore some bizarre, completely invisible concepts that somehow became humanity's absolute greatest evolutionary tool. We usually think our dominance comes down to stuff we can actually hold in our hands, tools, weapons, farming. But what if the real secret to our survival was something that existed entirely in our heads? Let's get right into it.
Imagine walking up to a lion out on the savannah and asking, "Hey, do you believe in money?" Or picture asking a chimpanzee, "So, what country are you from?" It sounds completely ridiculous, right? And that's because no animal believes in nations, corporations, human rights, or religion. Yet billions of us humans do. And here's the really fascinating part. Literally none of these things exist in the physical natural world. You can't touch a nation. You can't hold justice in your hand. Yet these invisible, imagined realities have shaped human history way more than mountains, rivers, or even our own DNA.
Okay, Section 1. The problem with strangers. Scaling human trust.
To really wrap our heads around this, let's look at how early Homo sapiens lived. For almost all of human history, we lived in tiny hunter-gatherer bands. And these groups were naturally capped in size, usually hovering somewhere right between 30 and 150 people. Within those small groups, everyone knew everybody else. Trust, it was just natural. If you shared your food, your reputation went up. If you stole, you were kicked out. Cooperation was deeply personal and deeply biological, but you couldn't effectively grow a society past that 150 mark because there was absolutely no framework to trust someone you didn't personally know.
But then, right around 70,000 years ago, something monumental shifted. Human populations actually started to scale. Those small bands started joining up to form larger communities. Villages became towns. Towns eventually morphed into cities, and cities just exploded into sprawling civilizations. But this massive scaling created a severe bottleneck, a huge trust problem. I mean, how do you cooperate with a complete stranger? Why on earth should you trade with, let alone protect, someone you have literally never met in your entire life? Which brings us to Section 2, Humanity's Invisible Technology, the Power of Shared Stories. So, the solution to this bottleneck actually wasn't physical evolution. We didn't just suddenly sprout bigger brains or stronger muscles. The fix was an incredible, entirely invisible social technology. Shared stories. We're talking about early religion, foundational myths, cultural symbols, traditions, and shared identities. These weren't just quirky ancient beliefs, They became a profound social technology. For the first time ever, these shared stories allowed thousands, and eventually millions, of people to cooperate peacefully on a scale the world had never seen.
The absolutely crucial takeaway here is understanding what historian Yuval Noah Harari calls shared imagined realities. A shared imagined reality is a concept that doesn't exist in the physical world, but exists powerfully inside millions of human minds all at the exact same time. Think about a $100 bill. Literally, it's just paper and ink. It has zero nutritional value, no functional value in nature. Its value exists entirely, and only because millions of us simultaneously agree that it has value. And that exact same principle, it applies to governments, universities, and entire nations.
Let's move to Section 3. How stories improved survival. Religion as an evolutionary innovation.
Instead of just writing off religion and mythology as basic cultural history, we really need to view them as an essential evolutionary innovation. Early religion emerged as one of humanity's absolute greatest tools for cooperation. It gave us shared moral rules, shared rituals, shared identities, and a shared purpose. And because of these shared evolutionary tools, people who had absolutely never laid eyes on each other could suddenly trust one another. Why? Simply because they believed they belonged to the exact same story. They worshiped the same spirits, or they followed the exact same codes.
And this shared belief system directly, and I mean dramatically, improved our early survival rates. Think about it. Groups without shared myths were strictly limited to those natural band sizes, relying purely on personal reputation. But armed with shared myths, complete strangers could suddenly cooperate. If two groups bumped into each other during a brutal, freezing winter, a shared belief in the same river spirit meant they could share their scarce food instead of just slaughtering one another. They could pool their resources to organize massive coordinated mammoth hunts or build huge defenses against rival tribes. From a purely evolutionary perspective, the storytellers simply outcompeted anyone who couldn't organize past that 150-person limit.
This leads us right into Section 4, the brain's pattern machine, the neurological basis of belief.
Now, the hard brain biology behind why these stories actually work so effectively is just fascinating. The human brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex, is essentially this extraordinary pattern-finding machine. We are hardwired to search for meaning. And when a story provides that meaning, boom, it activates deep emotion. That emotion triggers the release of neurochemicals, things like dopamine and oxytocin, which physically encode and strengthen the memory right there in the brain. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is absolutely crucial here. When a whole group holds that same strong emotional memory, it forms a powerful shared identity. So belief isn't just a cultural phenomenon, it is literally neurochemical glue.
And human history totally proves the effectiveness of this biology. Every single great civilization, we're talking ancient Egypt, Rome, India, China, the Maya, was built upon this exact same biological mechanism of shared meaning. Now, sure, they had vastly different beliefs, completely different gods, and totally unique symbols, but the underlying principle, it was absolutely identical. Large-scale cooperation practically demanded shared meaning to keep all those people united.
All right, Section 5. Modern Imagined Realities. The myths we live by today.
It's highly tempting to look at all of this and just assume these myths are dusty relics of the ancient world. But they are just as active today, and this perfectly illustrates our modern landscape. We still live entirely inside imagined realities: countries, stock markets, constitutions, human rights, corporate brands, digital communities, cryptocurrency. Literally none of these exist as physical atoms out there in the universe. They exist purely because millions of people collectively believe they do. Modern institutions are built upon the exact same biological and evolutionary storytelling mechanisms as the ancient myths of our ancestors. It's a trip when you really think about it.
So when we look back at the grand sweep of our history, perhaps humanity's greatest invention wasn't agriculture, it wasn't the wheel, and it wasn't even writing. Ultimately, our greatest invention was something entirely intangible. It was the ability to create a story, convince millions of strangers to believe it, and then cooperate as if it were absolutely real. That invisible ability is exactly what transformed one small African primate into the dominant species on Earth. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to really chew on. What are the shared imagined realities shaping your world today? Take a look around you, at the money in your wallet, the borders drawn on your map, the laws you follow every day. Think about the invisible stories we still tell ourselves every single day just to keep human civilization running. Keep questioning, keep learning, and thank you so much for joining me to unpack the incredible story of us.